Lepore, speaking of goaltending real quick,
Yeah.
Carey Price has not been good this year. Jake Allen has let me just look at the numbers real quick. Jake Allen 4-1 with a .940 save percentage and a 1.81 goals against.
Boom.
Carey Price 4-1-2 with an .899 save percentage and a
Yep.
2.81 goals against. Should Montreal Canadiens fans be concerned with the play of Carey Price so far?
I feel like that question has never been asked to Montreal Canadiens fans in the past. Should you be worried about the play of Carey Price? They're like, we've heard this before, guys. We've heard this before. But the Carey Price one is an interesting one, man. Like, should they be worried about it? No, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be worried about it because Carey Price has been around long enough and he's proved to us that he is what he is, and then he's an elite goalie. And when it matters, he's going to play his best. And how I talked about the format earlier and the way that Montreal is going to find themselves in the playoffs. So be my guest betting against Carey Price. But I more look at it broadly. Okay. Like I look at it in the way of, are the Montreal Canadiens, or would the Montreal Canadiens be a better team if they did not have Carey Price? Now everyone just freaked out. I can hear them in Montreal freaking out. Bing, bing, bing. But when I say that, I'm saying from more of a contract standpoint. There are great players all over the National Hockey League, and we're to the point now where we don't even measure players based on their performance. And let's call a spade. Trades aren't even made based on performance now. They're made based on cap situations. I've had the conversation with a friend of mine, even saying, like, when we were kids in the pre-cap era, we would talk about the great players and say, insert all-star here. Would you want him on your team? It's like, of course you would. Of course you'd want Brendan Shanahan or Matt Sundin or Mario Lemieux or Eric Lindros, Wayne Gretzky. Of course you would want them on your team. We're to the point now where you can circle star players. You can circle maybe even the best player in a position and say, I wouldn't want that guy because he makes too much. That's the world we live in right now. It's about value. And you look at the Montreal Canadiens, and this is a compliment to the Montreal Canadiens. Here's a team that has started the season 8-2-2. One of the best teams in the NHL, with a great coach, looking good, deep team. Like we've said, they seem to be very, very well built for a solid season, and a team that's looks to be very well built for the playoffs. But let's look at the cap situation. They have Price at $10.5 million. Okay. You pointed to Allen's numbers. I put them here in front of me too. Allen's 4-1-0, .940 save percentage. Okay. Now, I'm in no way saying that Jake Allen is better than Carey Price. Of course not. But let's say we removed Carey Price from the situation in Montreal. That would free up $10.5 million. Let's add a quality backup to Jake Allen at $1.5 million. So Jake Allen makes just under $4.5 million. We'll just call it $4.5 million. And then we'll give that backup $1.5 million, as I said. Now you're paying your goalies $6 million instead of $15 million that you are currently. So I'm not sitting here saying that the Montreal Canadiens are in a situation where Jake Allen is superior to Carey Price and they'll win games without Carey Price and Jake Allen between the pipes. What I am asking Montreal Canadiens fans is, would the Montreal Canadiens be better off not having Carey Price, freeing up $9 million in cap space and allocating that $9 million somewhere else? Because as we've touched on, and I don't think anyone, even the biggest Canadiens fan or homer, would say this team's got the best high-end talent on forward and defense. No, they're a well-balanced lineup that's winning games, and they look really fucking good. But would that $9 million be something that they could use to put them over the top? Could they add 3 good players? Could they add 2 very good players? Could they add 1 elite player at center or D that would put them at a point where they are universally recognized as a contender? And again, having good goaltending still available to them in the way of Jake Allen and a quality backup. I remember when Carey Price signed that deal, even at the time, like $10.5 million jumped out at people. And the number at the times, they looked at Price's save percentage and they compared it. And it even may have went beyond what his save percentage was. It may have been like sort of like his overall goalie measures. And they compared it to what the average goalie in the league was. And the average goalie in the league for that season was Ben Bishop. And if you looked at the overall metrics of rating a goalie, and then you compared Carey Price and Ben Bishop, I think the gap in an 82 game season was like 12 goals. So paying Carey Price what you pay him versus paying the average goalie what you'd pay the average goalie was 12 goals. And again, that I remember them even making the point that's over 82 games and your goalie doesn't play 82 games. So then do the math on what that extra money is worth. And then you can come back and say, okay, but what matters is the playoffs and being game 7 and overtime, you want Carey Price. That's a whole other discussion. But it's just in the way of value. And then it causes the greater discussion of how much should you pay your goalie? And I think it's kind of the example I've given to people talking broadly about sports is that to me, the goalie has kind of become what the running back has become in the NFL in the way that, sure, you really want one that's really good and, you know, gets you those yards and he's a star, but you're not going to pay him star money because the gap between a really good running back and an average running back is not that great. And when you can pay an average running back far less to get him and allocate that money in your offensive line or whatever, it's better for your team. And I think that's where we're at in the NHL. So it's kind of a more broad topic in the way of what does a goalie deserve. But Canadiens fans, like I'd love, and again, comment down below about what you think about the current situation with the Montreal Canadiens. This is a very good team. Would you be able to get to that next level, not having Carey Price and spreading that $9 million somewhere else?
No, Lepore, you bring up a very intriguing conversation because I look at a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky on the Panthers, and they're paying this guy $10 million a year, and the backup Chris Driedger is outplaying him again this season. So
everyone knew that deal was bad as soon as he signed it.
It's unbelievable. I mean, you got goalies just coming up out of nowhere all over the league. Even look at Jonas Korpisalo and Elvis Merzlikins on Columbus, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the worst things you could do is allocate a big portion of your salary cap to a goaltender. And it's just because of the volatility of the position. Sure, if you got a really good star forward or defenseman, by all means, if you want to pay them, go ahead. But when it comes to goaltending, it's one of those positions that year after year, we see the volatility where we see a guy who, you know, could have a 920, 930 save percentage, and then the very next season fall off the face of the earth out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with guys like Bobrovsky. We've even seen that with Carey Price. We've seen that with Jonathan Quick. We even saw that last year with John Gibson, who, you know, put a string of 3 to 4 good seasons together. And then last year, he just wasn't very good. And I'm sure there's plenty of other examples out there. But when you look at that contract that Carey Price has at 10.5 a year, and you just think about their lack of star talent in the lineup and what they could spend that money on, it really, really intrigues me. Just thinking about what that team could look like if they weren't paying Carey Price that much money. And again, we both know how good Carey Price is.
Yeah, he's the best in the world. Yeah.
He's fantastic. And of course I'd want him in a 7-game playoff series. I would take him over every goalie in the Canadian division, essentially, in a 7-game playoff series. But yeah, I mean, you cannot be allocating that percentage of your salary cap to a goaltender who's getting outplayed by his backup. And it's as simple as that. So yeah, Montreal Canadiens fans, we would love to hear from you.
And we know you will.
Below. Please let us know what you think about the current situation with the Habs and with Carey Price or whatever else you want to talk about.